Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to go over what some of the common directories do. So I'm basically going to highlight all of the directories, or at least the most commonly used directories, under the root directory, and I'm going to go over exactly what they do, what they're used for, and how you can use them. And hopefully you guys will have a better understanding of what all of those do by the end of this video. And that way, you know, when time comes, if you need to either troubleshoot an issue or modify a configuration, you'll know exactly where to go for that. Okay? All right, so let's get started. Right now, I'm in the root folder, so just the slash. And if I do an ls, we're going to see a whole bunch of folders that you probably haven't explored up to this point. And I want to go, one by one over some of the common folders or some of the main folders here so that you guys have a better understanding. And I want to start off with the bin folder. So the bin folder is a place for most commonly used terminal commands like ls, rm, cd, and things like that. So these are, basic commands that all users have access to. And if we take a look at this directory and we just do an ls, you can see all the executable files that represent the different commands that you can use. So we've got change group, we've got df, cp, pwd, ps. So, all of the common commands are all stored here. Let's go back to the root directory. The next directory I want to go over is the boot directory. So the boot contains files needed to start up the system, including the Linux kernel itself, a RAM disk image, and a bootloader configuration file. I'm not going to go into there because you probably won't understand what any of those files do up to this point, but just keep that in mind that that's actually where the Linux kernel is stored. Then the next folder I want to cover is the dev folder, this guy right here. So the dev contains all device files, which are not regular files, but instead refer to various hardware devices on the system, including hard drives. The next directory is the /etc, and we've already worked with this directory before. This directory is where we store all of our configuration files, which affect the system's behavior for all users. And if you install an application like Apache or SSH or something, it's going to have a configuration file that you can tweak to modify the settings, and that file is usually going to be stored in the /etc. And if we go into that folder right now, you can see all the config files that we can manipulate. And we have one for DHCP. I've already shown you how to change an IP address, and that's in the net plan directory. So we just changed that file. So this is where all the config changes are made. The home directory is the directory that stores all the home directories for every user. So every time you create a user, by default, their home directory will be configured to be inside this home directory. So it'll be /home, then the user's name, and that'll be their home directory. And if we go in there right now, we can see we've got 3 users, and each one has their own directory within the home directory. The lib folder, what that's used for is it contains libraries needed by the essential binaries in the /bin and sbin folder. The /media directory is intended as a mount point for external devices like floppy drives, CD drives, CD, DVD drives, and things like that. Then we also have the mount directory. So this is a place where we can temporarily mount devices such as network file systems and things like that. The opt folder over here, this is a place where we can store additional software for our system, which is not usually handled by the package manager. Then we have the /proc directory, and that's this folder right here. And this directory is it contains special files that represent the processes that run on the system. So if we take a look at that, and we just do an ls, you can see here there's all these random numbers, and these are actually PID. So this is 1, which is going to be the init process, which is the first process that gets spawned. So we have a file for all the processes that run on our system inside the /proc directory. Then we have the root directory. So this is the super user's home directory, which is not actually stored in the /home and the reason for that is it allows to boot the system even if the /home directory is not available. Then we have the run directory, and this is a temporary file system that's available early in the boot process where ephemeral runtime data is stored, and files under this directory are removed or truncated at the beginning of the boot process. Then we have the /sbin directory, and this is pretty similar to the bin directory. It contains a lot of the common commands that we use for administration. So if we check that out, so these commands are a little bit different. These are more of commands that are reserved for system administrators or the root user. So if you want to modify like your interfaces and things like that, that's where these commands reside. So these are usually commands that are not available to all users and would be reserved for like a root user. Then we have the SRV directory. So what this does is it contains data for services provided by the system. So as an example, if we were running an Apache, which is just a web server or an HTTP server, we would store the website's file that we want Apache to present in this directory. Then we have the sys directory. So the sys directory is a virtual file system that can be accessed to set or obtain information about the kernel's view of the system. Then we have the user folder. So the user directory contains applications and files used by the user as opposed to applications and files used by the system. For example, non-essential applications are located in the /user/bin directory instead of the /bin directory, and non-essential system administration binaries are located in the /user/sbin directory instead of the /sbin directory. So the final directory I want to cover is the var directory. So var is dedicated to variable data such as logs, databases, websites, and files that have to persist from one boot to the next. And you'll be using var a lot. If we check that out real quick, we do have an important directory called var/log. This is where all of our system logs are stored. And one of the common logs you'll check is the syslog. So this is something that you're definitely going to be using a lot, so get familiar with it. And that basically covers all the common directories. Hopefully that helped clear up any confusion about what they do and what their purpose is for.